Welcome to the Hiscall Technology Podcast, where we are communicating tomorrow's business needs today. From just outside Nashville, Tennessee, join Hiscall as we discuss all things telephony, data, and infrastructure related to business leaders. Here we go.
Thanks for joining another episode of the Hiscall Technology Podcast. This is your host, Chuck. Today, I'm recording with Devin Hunter from SpinetiX. Devin is here at our office for the Hiscall Technology Showcase. Devin, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Chuck. Happy to be here.
Glad to have you supporting us on the podcast and with the showcase this week. Thank you for spending time with our sales team this morning, talking about your product and what SpinetiX does and where it fits. In that vein, tell us a little bit about SpinetiX.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like you said, it was great to talk with the sales team earlier today. So SpinetiX is a digital signage company. We've been around since about 2007, so 12, almost 13 years now. And our goal when it comes to digital signage is really to provide a total solution. And so when I say that, what I mean is we have hardware players that go behind, a TV screen, a display screen that run the content. And then we also have a software program called Elementi. It's drag and drop, super simple and easy to use. And then we also have widgets or apps that allow you to really easily build dynamic content with our Elementi software and then send it to the players. And that's kind of how our solution works.
You mentioned digital signage. For those that may be listening that are not real clear what digital signage is, can you explain that to them?
Yeah, great point. So digital signage can really be anything. It can be anything from a menu board in a restaurant to a mall kiosk to maybe a video wall in a corporate lobby, or even a house of worship may have digital signs somewhere. So any sign that used to be printed can be digital now.
So it's communicating a message to an audience, and that could be menu items, or that could be promotions or directions, or I guess any number of things can create the content.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it can be anything to people or messages or telling people where to go in a building. There's kind of the sky's the limit when it comes to the messaging and the content.
When we talk about digital signage, I guess it's all about the content, isn't it?
Yes, great point. It definitely really is about the content because, like I mentioned a second ago, there is hardware involved. You need a TV, you need a display, and you also need a little media player behind the TV that's running the content. But at the end of the day, what matters is what's on the screen and what that finished product is, and making sure that it's engaging. When somebody walks in the room, you want the content to pop out, draw their attention, to have some sort of purpose when it comes to what the content is. When you think about it, it's really a first impression whenever you walk into the room, especially now in the digital age. People are immediately going straight to the TV in the lobby of a dentist office or a church. That's where their focus is immediately.
So when we talk about the content, do you find that most of the time is the content there for the employees or the customers? Which audience do you find most of the time your customer is trying to communicate to?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's really kind of two categories of digital signage that we like to talk about. There's kind of like the customer-facing digital signage where, like I was saying, maybe it's a hospital or a dentist office. Somebody walks into the lobby and you're kind of running content for a customer, or maybe it's a corporate client and it's their corporate office and you have content running in the lobby or something. And then kind of the second category would be more of like an employee engagement kind of content, which you guys actually do a great job of this downstairs with your 2x2 video wall, where you guys have a picture of your employees and it says their name and just kind of their job title and what they do, and that's kind of the other category, is that engagement with employees.
Yeah, okay. And so for those who have not been to the Hiscall corporate office, we do have a video wall when you come into our office. In our lobby, we have this 2x2 video wall, and we communicate a lot of information there. We will have the weather and the time and special messages that Hiscall may want to communicate to the employees. We've been running on the wall recently photos of all the employees with names and different kind of things like that. And when customers come in, it helps them to get familiar with the faces and the names of the people that they might encounter. But we also customize it when vendors or customers come to put information up about our visitor. It's heavily used.
Yeah, one thing I really like today, I noticed on the video wall, is you guys are using, I think, one of our calendar widgets on there, which basically is showing events that are happening during the day here at your office. And it's kind of cool. It's dynamic. It's kind of down in the bottom left part of the video wall. Mm-hmm. So that's what's cool, about video walls too, is you can kind of stretch the content. You can have, I think you guys have like the pictures of the employees on two screens, like two displays, and it stretches. It looks pretty cool.
Yeah, you've got a good eye for that, Devin. You can describe that better than I can, and I've seen it so many times. I take it for granted, I guess. So when we are talking about the content, what's the best way to create engaging content? You've talked about the widgets, and we've talked about the photos and different kind of things.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it really depends on what the purpose of the signage is. What is your purpose? But a good rule of thumb, if you can, is to focus on people. There's some pretty good research done that, we like to focus on faces. And so, when you walk into a room and the TV is showing a person, it'll draw your attention more so than just, weather or news, or just some, like if just normal TV was running, something like that. The other thing too, when it comes to, engaging content is if you can, we always say, if you can ditch the L bar, do it. And what I mean by the L bar is, in the past in digital signage, it's been really popular to kind of create this L with the top left maybe being like the weather, and the bottom being like a text ticker that ticks across the bottom. And so, especially nowadays, people have weather and news on their cell phone. And so if you can, if you don't necessarily need to have the weather and the news, maybe use that screen to do something maybe more valuable. Or if you need to, kind of like what you guys have done in this video wall, is you do have the weather, but it's not taking up a whole side of the display. It's just kind of up in the corner, so that you still have a lot of space to show people and to show events, to show things that are, people actually would care about, give you guys more value. Using
the SpinetiX product, is it time consuming to keep the content updated?
Yeah, so that's a great question. One struggle with digital signage in the past has been content going out of date. In the past, somebody would maybe make a PowerPoint slide for an event, and you would, send it to a display or a video wall, and then, 2 days later you forget to change it out, and it's outdated. And so that's really the beauty of our solution, is we have these widgets that basically can check a source like the weather or the news, or it could be some of your own content, like stuff like Google Drive and OneDrive and Google Spreadsheets, check on like an hourly basis, and then just update automatically. So then, if somebody dumps pictures and videos into a OneDrive location, they could even be pictures that they made in PowerPoint. They can pretty easily dump them into the OneDrive location, and the widget's just automatically checking. So then, they can really easily just take pictures in, take pictures out as they need to, without even having to touch the Elementi software necessarily.
Mm-hmm. So the Elementi software is what's running on is controlling the content, right?
Right.
And it's referencing the external source for the content.
Exactly, yeah. So the way it would kind of start from the beginning is, say you or I are kind of like the digital media specialist, or, we're the content creator, so to speak. We would use Elementi on our personal computer, kind of build a template in the software where you would say, okay, this widget is going to be on this part of the screen, or if it's a video wall, just this display. Build your template, have it look really nice and clean, and then once you're done, then you can just simply publish that template that you've made to the display or the video wall. And because you've used widgets in that template, you've set them up in Elementi. They'll automatically check for you just on a regular basis, whatever resource you've pointed them to look at.
Well, What types of feeds should a company be considering for their digital signage?
One thing that we always like to focus on is social media, just because it's becoming more and more popular. And so, a lot of companies and churches or whatever they might be, they have their own social media. So whether it's Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, we have widgets that work with those, and you can kind of show either just the pictures, just the text, or a combination of the pictures and the text. So we always recommend social media. The other thing that you can do with social media is kind of treat it as a news source, which I think is really cool. So maybe your company doesn't use their own personal social media, or maybe they do, but you can actually show ESPN's Twitter feed, or you could show, SportsCenter's Facebook page, or, same thing with CNN and Fox News, etc. So you can use social media kind of as a news source, which is, a little bit more unique and kind of new, kind of cool when somebody walks in to see posts about the news from Twitter or something.
Is there a way to filter that information? I mean, I know if you're pulling something from social media, are you able to control that any to keep content that you might not want people to see from appearing?
Of course, yeah. Social media is a double-edged sword. It's a beautiful thing, but you also got to be careful at the same time. So, say when it comes to Twitter, you can show your own posts, you can show a hashtag, you can show somebody else's page. What some people do is they pay for third-party services that will basically filter it for them. One thing I always mention that you can do is you can just make a blank Twitter account, and what you can do is you can just retweet tweets that you like from your own page, or maybe from really anywhere. And then that way what you can do is you can point it to this basically blank Twitter account. No one follows it. You don't follow anyone. But then it's filtered. You don't have to pay for a third party.
Right.
So that's a good way to do it.
I follow you there. So with social media being one way to feed your digital content, you talked about share drives to keep content updated easily. You mentioned focusing on people and finding a purpose for your content. How does a business go about defining their purpose?
At SpinetiX, we always say that we're trying to help you share your story. We all love stories. We all read books. We all watch movies. That's really what it comes down to digital signage as well, is sharing your company's story, whatever that may be. And so I think that's really the first question to ask is what is our story? What do we want somebody to take away from this? Do we want them to learn more about us as a company, like our mission and our values? Do we want them to learn about our employees? Do we want them to learn about events we've been doing in the community? Kind of just ask some questions about, start from the beginning. What is the purpose of this? Just because I've seen people and companies just kind of throw stuff up on the screen just to get something up there. And it's not necessarily bad, but it's, if you take a step back and just kind of do some evaluation first, you can make sure you're using the digital signage platform to the highest potential you can.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's just thinking about the message that you want to communicate.
Right.
Letting that define your purpose and your audience.
Yeah, just going from there, yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
I got you. We've defined our purpose. We know what our story is and the message we want to communicate. Tell me a little bit about how SpinetiX can help and why you're the best at it.
Yeah, absolutely. So the reason why I would say that we're the best, or how we can help you accomplish this, is we haven't talked about this much yet, but we have hardware players that are about the size of an iPhone Plus, and there's one of those behind each TV screen. And they control the media file that runs on that TV. And so the reason why you have one behind each screen is, maybe you want 4 or 5 displays to show the same thing, but then 4 or 5 to show different ones. That way, in theory, each TV could show different content if it wanted to. So in those players, they have a 3-year warranty. They're built to last. So the nice thing is that you're buying something that is just simple plug and play, and it just runs. It's not a PC either. So it's not, when I say PC, it's not a computer. It doesn't run Windows. And so I know we love all the Windows updates that pop up there and crash your computer. That's the beauty of this player, is it doesn't have that. It's built to run 24/7. So it gives you that peace of mind that you're not going to walk into your your corporate lobby when you have a huge important customer in there and your screen's down. It's not going to happen.
Not a lot of moving parts, I suppose.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a custom Linux, just all solid state. That's the hardware aspect of it. The next step is, as I mentioned at the beginning, is the Elementi software, which we've talked about some already. The beauty of Elementi is it's really simple to use. If you've used PowerPoint, you can kind of get the feel for this. It allows you to really easily drag and drop pictures and videos or widgets if you're going to use those and move them around. That's a great thing about Elementi. The other thing, too, is we have a YouTube channel online that's free, and we have over 100 videos on there. And they're short. They're 2 or 3 minutes. And, if you're like, oh, I've never used the Twitter widget, but I'd love to learn, you can go on there and there's a video you can watch really easily and it'll show you. So that ease of use is there. And so I think that's kind of what makes us the best is you have a hardware player that's reliable, gives you that peace of mind, but then you also have a really simple, easy to use digital signage software where you have free resources online to help you whenever you need it.
Does Elementi run on the player or is it separate from the player?
Good point. Yeah, I may not have clarified that well. So Elementi actually runs on a PC. I can give you guys kind of just a example situation. If you had a business or maybe a school, we'll say a school they have 10 displays that they want to run digital signage in. You would have one hypermedia player behind each screen to run the content, and then maybe you had 2 teachers that were kind of in charge of the digital signage. And so you would have 2 license keys of Elementi, one for each computer for each teacher to use to build content. They can work together on that and work building projects and stuff like that. And then you just have one player behind each screen. So 2 license keys, then 10 players in that example architecture.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so when I buy a solution,
Mm-hmm.
I'm buying a hardware player and the Elementi software. It includes widgets. How many widgets are included in there? So we've talked about several already, but
sure.
How many widgets and?
Yeah, absolutely. No, there's actually over 250 widgets. Yeah, so decent amount, and we've talked about some of them: social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Some other ones like we've talked about the spreadsheet widgets and the media folder widgets. But there's also other ones like weather and RSS feeds, which are great for news. And there's other stuff like clocks and dates and QR codes. Kind of really anything you can probably think of. There's probably a widget in there for you that you could use.
Okay. Do you find that certain verticals or industries, companies, are using more digital signage than others?
I think overall, every vertical definitely uses digital signage, but I think we've definitely seen a lot when it comes to education. Just when you have students and teachers just maybe showing events that are happening at the school. We've seen that happening a lot. The other thing that we see a lot are just corporate or healthcare clients kind of doing what I talked about earlier, which was the employee engagement. So if it's a hospital or a dentist office, just having that back room content that's talking about events and employees, and same thing in a large corporate example as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Devin, any final comments that you want to be sure that we get in on this podcast?
Yeah, I think the only other thing that we didn't really touch on, it's not too crucial, is we also have something called Cockpit, which is kind of cool, I think. And what it does is just a cloud-based monitoring system, and it just kind of continues to solidify that peace of mind, because what you can do is you can put your hardware players into Cockpit, your Elementi license keys, and then it allows you to safely and securely connect, or to use the fancy word, authenticate to Twitter and Instagram and Microsoft, etc. So it just lets you kind of look at everything in one place. You can see when your players are online, when they're offline, what content they're running. Say my computer had Elementi on it and it crashed. I basically have the license key in Cockpit, and I can just put it on a different computer, and it's no big deal.
So when I buy my players, I buy Elementi. Is Cockpit an additional option, or what's the charge to be able to use that?
So Cockpit's actually free, which is a free service that we provide with our solution. So you don't have to pay anything extra. Yeah.
Okay. When we talk about purchasing Elementi, how is it? Is it charged just for the software, or is it a per user or per player? How does it build out?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So everything is an upfront purchase. We've kind of gone with more of an upfront purchase model so that you can buy the players up front, and there's no monthly fee, no yearly fee. They just run. Same thing with the software. You just purchase the license key, and it's a lifetime license. Every year we release a new version with new widgets, usually 10 or 15 new widgets, but it's optional. So say Elementi's working great for you, you don't really need the new widgets, you don't have to upgrade to the new software. But if you saw one of the widgets and you're like, oh, this would really help us for what we're trying to do, you can upgrade for like a small fee, but it's completely optional.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Cockpit. That's a good piece of information to know.
Yeah.
As you are trying and thinking about the story that you have created for your business, and you're looking for ways to communicate that, to engage with your customers, your employees, SpinetiX provides digital signage to help you create the content and easily communicate that with your audience. Devin, thank you for being here.
Chuck, thanks for having me. I've enjoyed it.
We really appreciate your support, and glad you're here with us this week. Thank you guys for listening. I really appreciate you joining another episode of the Hiscall Technology Podcast. Stay tuned for the next episode, and we'll continue to bring you good content, speaking of that. As we wrap up today, as always, don't be afraid, only believe.
Thanks for taking the time to listen to the Hiscall Technology Podcast. Subscribe to this podcast so you can stay up to date with today's business communication trends. To learn more about Hiscall solutions for your business needs, or to listen to previous podcasts, visit us at our website, hiscall.com.